Everything worked well, and we're on to the Sunday Live, and people appear to still be here. Okay, so someone's going to have to just throw a comment in so I can see that everyone stayed online with us here, and we're going to get on with the live Sunday Q&A, which we had planned. And in that Q&A, one of the questions that came up was about chakras. And we've spoken about chakras before, and I want to talk a little more about them. There were a few comments on chakras, and the one, and again, I don't have the person's name off the top of my head, but the one comment in return to it was actually really good. So what are chakras? And here's the thing. The chakras do not exist in the physical sense. If you were to tear open my head, my forehead, you would not find this little spinning, glowing dot there. If you were to tear open my heart, my chest, you wouldn't find that light sitting in my chest. Doesn't matter where you go in your body, you're not going to find these little colored balls. They are not physical. They are indeed, we are an energetic being, okay? We are not this physical matter that we think we are. Matter is simply energy at a lower vibration. The chakra points can be thought of as energy nodes, as nodal points, metaphysical nodal points where the energy of your being is traveling in and out of and coalescing and swirling. One of the common chakras, and I've just chosen this one out of a random, and actually it is an important chakra from a different point of view, and we're going to talk about that, okay? Because I just said the chakras aren't real, and they're not. Let's just be clear about that. There's no such thing as balancing your chakras. There's no such thing as doing anything else to the chakras. The chakras reflect what's going on in this body, mind, spirit being. Those energy nodal points are reflective of what's happening with the energy at that particular point and what that energy relates to. And it has to do with vibrational states. Our body is a physical representation of all there is, the micro right through the macro. The entire macrocosm, the entire universe, and the entire physical and metaphysical or spiritual world of consciousness is all reflected in everything, and it is grandly reflected in our body. So Muladhara is the base or root chakra. And when I say chakra, what we're talking about is a nodal point, a metaphysical nodal point, a rough area from where the energy that has to do with grounding and root desires and basic needs tends to sit because of its vibrational level. Okay? And when we are in alignment with our higher selves, when our minds are in the right place, we will experience a sense of grounding in this area. Why? Because our basic needs are met. If we are imbalanced in our basic needs, if we don't have our basic needs met, food, clothing, and shelter, and we're not feeling fairly secure about our lives, fear and anger will arise, and it will start manifesting down at this nodal point. So keep in mind, again, I need this to be clear. Your chakras don't exist. It is a label that we put on a nodal point, an energy nodal point. And you cannot affect that nodal point by having someone else play with it or yourself play with it. The nodal point is a reflection. It is a manifestation of what's going on egoically, what's going on at the thought level of the individual. And this plays through all the chakras. Now, this becomes crystal clear when you read and study the actual origins of the word and what chakra really is. And of course, it comes out of an ancient Hindu text known as the Vedas. Now, it is mentioned in a couple of other various texts, including one of the Upanishads. But indeed, the meaning is nodal point. It's an energy node. It is not a physical being or a physical manifestation. And the closest example we have of this is, do you remember when we were in school, they had the picture of the atom? You know, there was the atom. And we all believed that there was these little balls in the atom at the core, in the nucleus. There was these little balls, and those balls were called protons and neutrons. And the protons were pinky red, and the neutrons were kind of blue. And then there were rings, like Saturn's rings, around that ball. And on those rings were these little green balls we called electrons. And we got it in our heads, because no one told us differently, that's what an atom looks like. When in fact, an atom is barely visible. It flutters in and out of existence. The electrons that rotate around actually come into existence and then disappear and then reappear. They're not on rings. It is not a physical solid object. An atom is not. If an atom bumps into you, nothing's going to happen. It's going to pass right through you. And that is the same thing with chakras. We got caught up on the idea of the physicality of it. And, you know, there's been all sorts of people who've made businesses out of this. And, you know, understand this. If you go to have someone balance your chakras and you believe it 100% and you're committed in your mind that this is going to help you, it's going to help. I say instead, save your money and do research instead and see what the various nodal points represent when they become imbalanced. See the areas of our emotional and mental states that cause the imbalance, and address those in the mind. Trying to fix a chakra is kind of like trying to fix a problem by going after one of the symptoms. You know, the symptom is that feeling of tightness in your chest, for example, when your heart is broken. The problem is what's going on in here, not something that's actually going on in here. Here is where you experience it. Here is where the energy nodal point, where that experience is most profound, is strongest. That's the entryway and the exit way. And it all revolves and comes back into you, not outside of you, all in you. Question number 2, perception versus reality. And this came up with the baby example. And you know, it's a very valid example. If you start a little baby when they're young and you draw them a picture of a bird and you tell them that this is a bird and this is the only way a bird can ever look like, and anything that doesn't look like this is not a bird. And if they buy it and believe it 100% and no one ever trains that out of them, for the rest of eternity in this life, that little baby will grow up into someone who sees no birds unless they look exactly like this one bird does. Now you ask, how is that possible? Perception versus reality. You know, 2 people witness a car crash and there's 2 totally separate stories as to what happened. Perception is not reality. Perception is exactly what we're here to do. We're here to perceive. We're here to receive that perception, to take in that experience. We have the ability to recreate our perceptions, to change what we think about things. Now, here's what happens. And it doesn't matter whether you're this little baby in the bird example or adults in life. We allow our perception to trump the experience. And I'm going to say that again. We allow what we think and what we feel about we think to actually trump the experience we're having. And one of the most profound examples of this can be found when you have an experience, what you would call a spiritual experience, and you're trying to relay that spiritual experience to a fundamental Christian, and they say, well, if it didn't happen the way it's written in the Bible, if heaven didn't look like the way it's written in the Bible, then I'm sorry, you weren't in heaven, you were somewhere else. This is the sort of routine that starts happening. Why? Because their perception is different from the experience, and they go with the perception. This is why in the Bible it says the word kills. This is why we have so many problems with our rule of law. Okay? The laws themselves are not the end result. The laws are that baby example. The law is trying to put into words a feeling that something that happens in this regard is not correct and not acceptable and should be dealt with. And of course, we stand behind the words of those laws and we don't see beyond those words. The same thing happens in our perceptions versus our reality. If we perceive and we buy into our perceptions about another person, for example, even if that person is totally different, has grown up and changed and advanced in consciousness, we will see that old perception in front of us. Why? Because we have blinded ourselves one way or the other. And this blinding to reality, 99% of our entire species is sound asleep at the wheel. The vast majority of our species live in this state where their perceptions are creating their version of reality, and they are nowhere near reality. And they're totally unaware that the way they're thinking about things is reflecting around them, as it does for all of us in every minute of every day. What we think determines what we feel. If we choose to think negative thoughts, we're going to feel negative states. Why? Because the body tries to warn us. That body's intelligence that always lives in 100% absolute truth of being says, wait a minute, your thoughts are not in alignment with higher self. Come back to that alignment again. Get your thoughts going in a positive direction, because that is in alignment with what you really are and the truth of your journey here. Present versus past, and here's a big one. Okay, so we're just going to have a hypothetical situation. You have an argument with a really good friend 5 years ago, and it was a drag-out argument. You yelled and screamed at each other. You told each other you never wanted to see each other again, that you hated each other. I mean, it was terrible. And 5 whole years go by, and you run into that person on the street. Only one of two things will happen. If you're totally asleep, the only thing you will see in front of you is everything from that last past event 5 years ago. That's all you'll see. If you're still sound asleep, you will just have a repeat. You will look upon that person and see only what you saw 5 years ago. Why? Because you're manifesting it right out of your own mind, and you're no longer seeing the person in front of you. You're seeing your version of that person. So 5 years have gone by and you run into the person, and despite the fact that they've changed and matured and that they're honestly sorry, you're not in the state of mind to see it because you are stuck in the past. And our mind does this automatically, okay? It's a comparison machine. And for our survival, it was very necessary. I watched the tiger eat the one guy, I'm going to stay away from tigers. You run into a tiger, instantly the memories come up of your friends being eaten, and you back away slowly from the tiger. Sadly, though, in our current state of dysfunction, this leaks into our daily lives and we no longer see the present. Even though we may not be living in the past, we are continually dragging that past into our present moment, which is hiding the present from us. After all that talk about reality, there's no such thing. And this is the big one to understand, okay? Because we live in this dualistic world, we have it in our minds that you can only be right or you can only be wrong. And that's not actually true. There are 7.5 billion realities going on in and around this planet right now. None of them are true or not true. None of them. The only reality that underlies reality, as we would call it, the illusion of this reality, is that we are swimming in that sea of consciousness. That consciousness is manifesting everything. And we are manifesting our reality. And reality has this final sound to it. Well, get real. You have to face reality. Reality is changeable by each and every one of us directly through our thoughts and our perceptions. Learn to guide those thoughts. Learn to guide those perceptions. Notice when you feel yourself becoming upset or sad or angry. See what's doing it. Call yourself on the truth of what's happening and begin to cut those processes and bring them into the light of awareness. And soon your perceptions will change. And with it, reality. Letting go of labels. This came out of the Samadhi videos. And if you haven't seen Samadhi Part 1 and Part 2, I sincerely suggest you watch them. They are done... The artwork is incredible. They're designed to be very meditative and to try to help you move past mind, even for a brief second. To just be still for that one moment. How do you let go of labels? This is a big one. And we all label and label and label and label everything all the time. It's unconscious. It happens so fast we don't even notice it. You can train yourself back out of it. Oh, you're into Part 2, Cindy. Excellent. And Jennifer, you've seen it too. Yeah, awesome videos. And, people had a little bit of difficulty with the concept of, well, how do you let go of these labels? And one of the first things that you can do is do conscious exercises every day. Look around the room or wherever you are, and everything that your eyes alight on, excuse me, sorry, having a little yawn moment. Everything that your eyes alight on, say to yourself, I don't know what that is. You see, labeling is all about the idea that we can actually know something by putting a label on it. That's as far from the truth as you can get. In the act of labeling it, you've actually removed the truth of it. And what you've done is you've placed the limitations of the label. The label tree, for example, goes no distance to actually explain the magnificence of a tree. And there we go again. There's that label tree. So one of the first practices you can do is spend some time every day, no matter where you are, and let go of knowing. I don't know what that is. Instead of calling it a tree, I don't know what that is. When a person who you know is walking towards you, say to yourself, I don't know who this person is. Come back to that state of unknowing, that state of awe and wondrousness that you had as a child. Let go of the labels. Remind yourself over and over again that you don't know what it is, that the label does not do it. Remind yourself what labels are. Labels are words, and words strive to take the feelings of an experience and freeze them into little tiny frozen chunks and stick them all together in a guttural outpouring of sound that's supposed to have meaning to someone else. It's no wonder that the labels, the physical communication, represents only the tiniest fraction of the total communication going on in our daily lives. Remind yourself that labels are just that. They are trying to relay something beyond words. Labels are not truth. Labels are pointers. And that's all they are. And they're not even very good pointers at that. So I would encourage you to spend as much time as possible letting go of what you think you know. You know, I'm looking at the camera right now, and in the back of my mind I'm going, I don't know what that is. Your mind is a filing cabinet, and that's why everything has to have a label. Okay, just like a well-organized filing cabinet, you have a label for your best friend, you have a label for your worst enemy, you have a label for mom, a label for dad. And those labels are sitting on the outside of mental filing cabinet drawers. And every time you have an experience with one of those labels, you pull open that drawer, whether you're aware of it or not, and you rummage through it, and you find out all the stuff that you've already experienced with that label, and then you put that right back on the label again. You know, it's like seeing a label on Sunlight soap. It's always Sunlight soap as long as that label's on it. Even if you fill it with different liquid, it's still Sunlight soap because the label says so. This is the way we behave with other people, with other events, with other situations. Well, once it's labeled, it has to be that way. Why? Because the label told us so. The label is not even an approximation. Words can never describe truth, and that's what Rumi meant when he said there is no truth on earth, or the only truth on earth is that there is no truth on earth. Words can only point towards a path that can lead to truth. You know, we call a tree, 4 letters, tree. But go sit under a tree, meditate, commune with a tree. Experience all these different trees, and you'll understand that the label tree really means nothing. It goes no distance at all to describe the magnificence of that conscious creation. Soulmates and twin flames. I know there's been a few people waiting for this one. And they may not be happy with me, and maybe they will be. I don't know. But the whole concept of soulmates and twin flames, it's crap. 100% crap. Waste of time, waste of energy, throw it in the garbage, crap. Crap, 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 crap. And more crap. If I wasn't clear, soulmates and twin flames, it's all crap. And I'm going to explain to you why. You are not here to engage in a relationship with someone else. That is not your purpose of being. It's not. Sorry. I know a lot of you would like to think that that's the case, but it's not. Every single one of us is born and is here whole and complete and powerful. Whole and complete and powerful. You are here to realize yourself. And in that realization of self, you will shine. And the light you shine will be reflected in others. And there will be attraction between those two lights. Just like two magnets coming together. To think that in all creation it's only going to happen to you once or twice or 3 times. No. In every single one of your existences, you will have people who will come and go as necessary. Some will come in and they will seem like they are the one. And a decade may go by and you'll find out that they're not the one. You know, we're always looking for the static idea. You know, when I meet my soulmate, I'll be complete. This person's my twin flame, and that's why we're always burning. We'll find anything we can to make up reasons why for what we're doing. And the idea that in all of creation there's only one soul that's hanging around for you, what would be the odds that they'd even be around on this planet? We have this microscopic little view of everything. 7.5 billion people. And the odds are 1 in 7.5 billion that you're going to meet the right person? What about all the rest of the species? What about all the rest of the beings out there? This very often comes up because people are struggling to find meaning in their relationships, and they're not seeing it, and they're looking for meaning. The meaning only comes from you. Going outside of yourself in an attempt to be made whole through someone else will only end in failure. A soulmate is someone who is near enough to your vibrational state of being and near enough to your level of conscious awareness that the two of you just seem to click. And you can choose. And don't worry, it's not like you can miss one and never see another. I know, when people want soulmates or twin flame readings, the only thing, Cindy, that I see is codependency waiting to happen. I'm not whole, I'm not complete. Now keep in mind, we're not talking about the honest desire to engage in sharing with others, and you don't need to go out and find a soulmate or a twin flame to do that. You can involve yourselves in groups. You can involve yourselves in awakening activities like yoga, Tai Chi. There's thousands upon thousands of options out there where you can meet other like-minded people. And yes, when you choose, that person is your soulmate. When you choose, that person is your twin flame. But don't ever make the mistake to think that there's a soul out there labeled soulmate for Garhen, and that there's a twin flame out there labeled twin flame for Garhen, and I have to bump into them in this lifetime. That's not the case. It really isn't. Again, you cannot mess this up. You cannot get involved with someone that you shouldn't have. You cannot fail to get involved with someone you shouldn't have or should have. Your entire life is a never-ending journey of successes. It's just our limited point of view that can't see that all the time. There is no single one of anything, and yet it's all just that one. But when we're talking about this, we're talking about people who are able to be with others. Okay, the more you come up in conscious awakening, the more likely you are to meet other consciously awakened people. That's just it. Wherever you're vibrating at is what you're going to attract. If you want to attract higher vibratory beings into your space, you need to raise your vibrations. You have to work on raising your vibrational states. What you broadcast returns to you in every way. In every way. So I want to be clear about this. If you think you've ran into your soulmate and you've lost them, if you think you ran into a twin flame and you've lost them, give it up. There's a profound reason why it didn't work out with those people, and it would not have turned out good. Trust me. The universe always has your back. Putting anyone in a relationship before they are a whole and complete being leads to dysfunction, leads to pain, leads to suffering. I don't want that for you, and I know you don't want that for yourself. Become a whole being, and then you will no longer live in a codependent state. You will be a whole being, and in that essence, in that moment, you cease to need anybody. And then you can simply make choices as to who you want to be with. A much better way to live. When you do not go within, you go without. A little deeper than people think. When we don't turn within ourselves for the answer, we go without the answer. In other words, we're faced with looking outside of ourselves, and instead of only one answer, now there's hundreds of answers, and we don't know which answer to pick. We don't know which person to pick. Go within. See what resonates inside of you. Ask yourself if you are ready and whole and ready to share yourself with someone else who's ready and whole, and then they're going to come. You're going to attract that. But if you're needy and you're hiding that and you're trying to cover up your this feeling of need to be with someone, you're going to find yourself in a relationship with someone who's just as needy. And it's going to begin to cause you to suffer. And it's going to cause you to suffer because life is trying to say to you, you're not quite thinking straight. Adjust your thinking. Try again. A May moment, exactly, hey? When you do not go within, you go without on every level. What you really need to focus on and why, and I keep coming back to this, okay? You know, what I really see going on around me all the time is a huge number of people who want an end to the suffering. They've woken up enough to realize, hold on a second. You know, the way we're living our lives is equating to suffering. And suffering is actually the only way. You know, Buddha had that right. This suffering is perceptual. The sea of consciousness did not make this life for us to suffer. But we suffer within it due to that egoic sense of self, due to those false conceptions, those false misperceptions that we hold about ourselves and about our role here and our place here in the universe. So we have the perception of our suffering. Why? Because it goads us out of the hole we're in. You know, it's like walking around that street corner and falling into that hole. And it's a deep hole. And you're down in that hole. And in that hole, you're suffering. And eventually you'll climb out of that hole, and then you'll go ahead and you'll do it again. And it's only until we've suffered enough that we say, enough. And it usually means that the pain of our suffering is greater than the pain or fear of the change that we need to make. And as soon as that pain of that suffering gets greater, we'll go ahead and we'll make that change. The trick in life to realize, of course, much earlier than that is to never come to the suffering. To understand what suffering really is, it's a false point of view. It is false thought. It is false perception. Now, you know, pain is very real. Okay? We're not talking about physical pain. But to be honest, and I know this isn't easy to accept, but even physical pain falls into that. It's really not real. It is the sea of consciousness that does the suffering. We, in our egoic sense of self, we perceive that it is us suffering. And, you know, when I was shot, yeah, I felt pain. That didn't take away from the pain. But what I choose to think about the pain and what I choose to think about what's happening to me determine whether I suffer or not for it. And that's the difference here. So what do we really need to focus on? Well, we need to focus on meditation, not as a way out of suffering, but as a gateway to understanding ourselves better. And in that, the suffering begins to subside. And it does so because our mind is becoming clearer, because our thoughts are becoming clearer, because we're becoming more aware of what we're thinking and how we perceive what we're thinking. And we're catching ourselves. more and more in every way, in every day, as we grow in conscious awareness. Surrendering. What we really need to focus on, again, of course, is surrendering. We must surrender to everything. You know, it'd be different if we actually lived under that Old Testament God. I could really understand that, but we don't. We live and love in this loving sea of consciousness. And when we surrender, we allow that sea of consciousness to bring us the very best for us, for our experience. Not maybe the very best that we at an egoic level may think, but have a little bit of faith. Have faith that what you're going through right now is very necessary, that it has profound lessons for you, profound growth from you. And what you go through now, no other aspect of you will have to go through again. You are, in your compassion, living a life that is taking suffering away from others. As you advance in conscious awareness, and this is why every spiritual text, every spiritual leader says the best thing you can do is work on you. Because in your conscious awakening, you are removing that suffering from the entire psyche of the planet. You are reducing the suffering in every single living being. It's true. We are radiators of energy. We are receptors of energy. That energy vibrates out through all of creation and comes in from all of creation. We can attenuate and tune and choose how to release that vibration back out again. Why? Because all vibration, no matter how we wish to judge it, emanate from that sea of consciousness. The murderer has God behind his eyes too. And God still loves him or her, even in what they do. Acceptance. Acceptance does not mean an unwillingness to change, and neither does surrender. What they do mean, though, is not pushing up against what's already manifested. Instead, understanding how we came to the place of manifestation. How our thoughts, how our words, how our deeds led to that place. And then accepting the choices we made. Why? Because we have to honor our creations. They are our creations. But you don't have to hold on to it. You don't have to continue to buy into it. You can choose to start that process all over again, to choose new thoughts, new words, new actions, and watch as the monuments and edifices of our old ways of thinking fall away all by themselves. And the new ones we wish to manifest out of conscious awareness, out of conscious thinking and conscious perception start to appear in our lives. What is it most of all? And I got to tell you, over the last 2 years, I've been turning to this more and more deeply in every day, in every way. Seek ye first the kingdom. Learn to see God everywhere. Learn to know in your deepest heart that you are the Creator, looking back on all of creation. Take that point of view with yourself. Take that point of view with others, and choose always to not seek into the illusion, but seek within yourself, because the illusion is a manifestation of everything that's on the inside. And that's where all the answers are. Seek ye first the kingdom within. Everything else, everything you need, will be naturally accorded to you. And that's really where we're going to wrap it up today. Yeah, it's been a good hour and 15 minutes, and I hope it's been beneficial. And I do apologize again for the terrible weekend. Kelly and I were both commenting it felt so strange not doing our videos over the weekend, and we really miss having everyone there. We are going to go live tomorrow again. I'll be posting a new one tomorrow for YouTube and make sure that we're back into running properly on YouTube as well. Much love. Namaste to you all. Look forward to seeing some new questions this week and continuing on with our awakening. And as always, if you need to get a hold of us privately, if you need to have a little video chat, you want to, work a few things out, get in touch with us. We love to hear from you, and we love to help. And I'm here for advice in any way anyone wishes it. Much love. Namaste. We're going to talk again very soon. Take care.